Surviving Reality contains explicit content full of snark and sarcasm that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to Surviving Reality.
I'm Corey.
And I'm Carly, and we are here talking about the Traitors, Season 3, Episode 8, A Bitch is Lying.
Or if you're married to Meredith Marks, a biatch is lying, perhaps. Could that be an alternative title for this one?
You know what? They're just asterisks, so I'm going to say it is biatch.
Well,
I know what the quote was, but we're going to change it.
Well, if you count the number of letters, I don't think there's an asterisk for the A involved in this one, so maybe not, but that was a stretch for me.
We really need Meredith. Get Meredith and Seth on this show. Both of them together.
Seth would be really good in the challenges. He's a short king.
Okay.
It's good for challenges. He's sturdy.
How was this both the funniest and the fastest episode that we've gotten this season?
This one flew by, and I think it's because it's probably the first one that's really followed the Traitors sort of format for an episode, so it felt familiar in that way, because basically every episode this season has just been a complete curveball because the Traitors are not on the same page at all whatsoever.
They're still not really on the same page.
No, definitely
There's just
not.
less of them to fight amongst themselves.
So that seems like progress? In some ways it is progress, I suppose. It's less infighting, that is progress.
Here is the episode description. The faithful seek to close the lid on the coffin theory, while an alliance of gamers sparks suspicion and distrust. The Traitors' trust continues to crumble, threatening them from reaching the final stretch of the game together. I'm not sure that's their goal.
I mean, we know what Danielle keeps saying her goal is, but we also don't trust Danielle. We're pretty much right there with Carolyn, where you can't believe anything that Danielle's saying at this point. But if you don't remember where we left off last episode, it was a cliffhanger. There was the face-to-face murder in the church that was taking place at the altar. There was a lot of wedding imagery that was strewn about all over the sanctuary there.
We got a little bit of a teaser with seeing the reactions of each of the faithfuls as they turned around, but we didn't see what they saw. And that's kind of answered eventually.
Yeah.
Because at first we're at breakfast.
We are at breakfast. And then, we have Danielle and Brittany buddying up and continuing to buddy up. The friendship is real. The alliance is apparent. There's no arguing. This is what's going on. This is the strategy at play that Danielle has.
Yeah, so they're the first two into the breakfast room. And I'm so over Danielle. I think this is going to become like a harder and harder to recap the longer that she hangs around. Because like you said, it's just so transparent what her motives are.
And I think I was taking credit away from a lot of people for not realizing that she's a traitor. I feel like at this point, a lot of people do think she's a traitor. And so that's why they're not really going as aggressively for her.
She's the one you can keep around to the end, and then you're pretty sure.
I'm not finishing the game with you.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're not going to be here to the end. So if you're still around, that's a problem. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, sort of a debate. Why is Sierra so obsessed with Rob's dick, though?
Why is this? She made multiple comments about it.
This is the second time she has made reference to Boston Rob's genitalia. I think she was.
I don't think she's really referring to it.
Okay, not explicitly his. Maybe, I don't know for sure now, because
he's got big balls. She admires that.
It was big balls, and she keeps talking about his dick though. His dick. It's a dick on the table move, which I've never heard that before. I don't think a dick should be on a table.
Oh, you've never heard that? Put your dick on the table?
Yeah,
You've not heard that expression?
I don't think that's where a dick should be.
I gotta tell you, I would be in this game with Sierra and Dolores, and it would be foul. Like they would have to censor a lot of the conversation.
They don't. It's on Peacock. It's all uncensored. It's just straight to streaming.
He did talk her through the last challenge, so I mean, maybe that's why that's still on her mind.
Rob's dick on the mind, yeah.
Sam is still at breakfast. He wasn't up for murder, but it's just a reminder that he's still here. Like, he's so quiet.
We're trying to remember that he's a part of the game.
That's apparently his strategy, though. We're not noticing him because he's doing a lot more listening than he is speaking. And he's starting to kind of get a hang of this game. Just like Tom thought he was getting a hang of this like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So I think this is when Gabby came in and she was up for murder last night. And so she's describing what the scene was like walking into the chapel, how nerve-wracking that was and how scared she was. And what did she see? And what was Alan wearing when she turned around and saw him standing there instead of the traitors? Because obviously if you saw the traitors, you would have been murdered. But she saw Alan.
Tom also took note of what Alan was wearing because the first thing he saw when he started to look up was some very fashionable shoes that he doesn't believe the traitors would wear.
Nobody in this room would be wearing those shoes. Definitely Alan. So then Sam starts spitballing on an idea here, which it took a couple of explanations to get Carly on board with here for the train of thought, the line of reasoning.
Did not understand this.
This was the theory that Sam was cooking up here was that, well, in theory then, if everyone who turned around saw Alan in the sanctuary here.
Everyone who's still here today who walks into breakfast. Because if you turned around and you saw Alan, that meant you were safe and you were continuing in the game. If you turned around and you saw the traitors, which only one person did, they're eliminated. So everybody who's going to come in today should have a story about having seen Alan.
And what he was wearing, notably in his fashion wardrobe, because we know most of his looks are pretty unforgettable. I think it's an okay strategy to go with. It's something to work off of. But here's the thing that you don't know. Alan could have been there with the traitors too. You don't know.
Okay, I still don't understand. This is the only thing that makes sense to me about this is if you question everyone who was up for murder last night about what they saw, what Alan was wearing, then that only works if one of the people who was up for murder is also a traitor.
Yes, and that is where it gets interesting because Carolyn is the next person who's walking in, and they test this theory on Carolyn. And now it's really hard to tell, is Carolyn a traitor who was up for murder who just can't recall what Alan was wearing? Because I feel like Carolyn is a really good example of why eyewitness testimony in court is no longer like the staple valid reason of evidence.
We're not hinging everything on that.
Yeah, you can't build a case on this, and that's what they're trying to do here.
But she didn't see Alan. I mean, she didn't have her moment where she had to walk down the aisle like everybody else did and wait to see if Alan was there or not.
Which that feels a little bit off. So then did the traitors even see Alan? Is Carolyn just making this up entirely? Did she not have any contact with Alan at all? We didn't really know at the time. Eventually we did see, when they show us who was murdered, that it doesn't look like Alan was in the room with them. So maybe that was part of the gameplay here of leaving a little opportunity of a clue for someone to figure out, hey, if somebody was up for murder and they didn't see Alan, then that could be suspicious.
I kind of feel like this was a hole that the producers didn't realize could be an issue for them.
It becomes a bigger issue when the whole basis of this theory that Sam is talking through is that you need to ask people what they saw and get their answer. And if they're talking nonsense and they don't give any details, that's suspicious. Tom starts answering for Carolyn, and it's like, dude, you already gave an answer.
He also is lost, just like me. He doesn't understand what Sam is trying to describe.
And it's like, Tom, you are cross-contaminating the witness.
Again, this is why we don't rely on eyewitness testimony.
It's terrible. Yeah, this is just not working out. So then, yeah, this is Tom starts blathering on and basically answers Carolyn's question for her. And she just rolls with that. Yeah, what Tom said, it's like a kilt thing. I don't remember if he had a hat, though. I don't know. Was it a nightcap? It was late at night. It was midnight.
I mean, the fact that they would take note of what he was wearing when that wasn't why they were there, I would be a little upset that they were going to hinge everything on what I could or couldn't remember.
Those would be the types of things where I would walk in, I would be a faithful. Someone would ask me, what was Alan wearing when you turned around? I'd be like, I don't know.
That'd be the end of the year.
I have no idea. And then it would be taken as, oh, you're definitely a traitor. And it's like, I don't have any recollection of that.
They needed to separate everybody. You can't ask them in front of each other.
Well, you can't separate them at breakfast. See, Sam announced this at breakfast with too many people. So I feel like that was something. I mean,
this is work that the gamers do on the DL.
Yeah. And even at that point, too, he might not have been able to explain it very quickly to people in single audiences here.
All he needed to ask was, what did you see? What was it like?
And then he could make note and then point out the inconsistencies. So if somebody's story changes, then that's definitely worth noting. If somebody was very vague and then gets more detailed throughout the day as they hear other people's answers, that's suspicious too.
The 3 people who haven't walked in the room yet are Dolores, Dylan, and Chriselle. So everyone's starting to throw out their theories about who's going to be gone. They're pretty worried about Dylan.
I was too.
I
Especially
know
of those 3.
a lot of you out there listening were worried about Dolores. We did a little Spotify poll, and it seemed like the person who you all thought was going to be leaving was Dolores.
But she walks in safe. She's the next one.
Lives another day. I don't know how, but
because I think it's because she was kind of like my middle of the pack pick when I initially thought of murder for last episode. But she's also not, she doesn't have any sway. She doesn't have any vote push or recognition amongst the faithful. She's very not a threat and not an asset. So she is super middle of the road right now. So maybe not a reason to murder her at this point, but time will tell if she will remain useful to the traitors.
Dylan, I think not getting rid of Dylan was a mistake, even though I see the opportunity to possibly turn suspicion on him.
I thought that they were going to look at it as Dylan was Rob's asset. Rob is gone. I don't know if we can get Dylan on our side, so he's gone too. I thought that was going to be the line of reasoning for it. Clearly, line of reasoning is not how we need to be addressing any of the theories for this season.
Just throw out all the logic.
But
we're not being rational with our decisions. Doesn't it seem like keeping him around is a bad move because he has the ability to like taint the pool of
oh my
the pool of faithfuls that you have left against you, because you're so far in the game right now that you need people surrounding you who are absolutely convinced that you are not a traitor.
This is why Danielle thinks she's doing such a great job, because she keeps eliminating faithfuls. Faithfuls are being banished. The traitors that she doesn't like are being banished. And she continues to move closer and closer to the final 4 at the end of this game. She doesn't understand that there's no point in being at the end of the game if you don't have any friends.
I think Carolyn's in a worse position than her.
I think Carolyn is all in on Gabby and Danielle is all in on Brittany. And those are their only friends in the entire game. So they need to branch out more, because you can't just take someone to the final and say, let's vote out everybody else and get there together. That's not usually how that works. It's a numbers game.
Well, the one they decided to murder last night was Chriselle.
It came down to Chriselle or Dylan. I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be Dylan. I thought it was weird to have. Well, Tom's not going to miss her.
No, he makes that clear to everybody.
If we're taking stock of everybody's, reactions there.
Maybe don't celebrate somebody that you didn't like being eliminated, because that looks a little odd.
He was trying to say he'll miss her personal insults that were directed towards him. That's what he's going to miss the most.
The reason why they got rid of her is she's just too faithful. No one is ever going to vote to banish her. So that's a problem for them.
See, that felt like a description for Dylan. So that's what I thought they were saying at the end of the last episode when they showed that in the preview. I thought they were talking about Dylan.
That's why I just feel like he's more dangerous to them, because he has pull within the group. He has helped them find a traitor before. Kind of. You know.
He took credit. Yeah.
Chriselle hasn't really done anything.
No, and she has gone in the wrong directions a couple of times, and people are okay with that. People went with her on that. So I guess that is dangerous too, where she if she has an inkling for something, people trust her and they believe her and they'll go with it. Maybe Dylan doesn't have as much sway without Rob being around. He's not as willing to put his dick on the table, so to speak.
We did get to see Chriselle's reaction to seeing Danielle and Carolyn because they had to do the murder face to face. I will say, in the moment, there wasn't much going on for Chriselle. But afterwards, she said she was shocked to see Carolyn. And I've been keeping up with the little clips that they release after where we find out what the banished person and the murdered person from the episode think about who the traitors are when they reveal them. Pretty much everybody has been shocked about Carolyn.
Oh, yeah. So that bodes well for the way that she was playing and where everybody's mentality is in the house, in the castle at this point. It seems like Carolyn can go the distance on this one. She is heavily favored at this point on this podcast.
She might not have a bunch of friends in the group.
She might not need them.
But she might not need them, yeah.
She's just trying to blend all the way to the end.
Well, Danielle is on cloud 9. Boston Rob is gone. They eliminated Chriselle. I guess that was exciting for her. She got her way at the turret for the first time.
She's able to actually call the shots now.
She's also very wrongly under the impression yet again that she and Carolyn are now working together because they're moving beyond all the stuff in the past. And so things are just honky-dory from here on out.
For now, for like 2 seconds, at least through breakfast, for sure. Definitely.
So it's not time to leave for the challenge yet. They did get a clue. Alan told them that it would have something to do with dolls.
Or something to do with doing it quickly. That was what Tom picked up on.
Well, I mean, maybe there's a reason Tom picked up on that.
Yeah, you're going to get busted. You're going to get caught. Somebody might walk in.
Or you're going to bust. I don't know.
Well,
doing things quickly.
I
No,
hope
not picking it up? Okay.
I hope it's not on the table when it busts.
He's really, at this point, reading really deep for clues. He's looking everywhere. At one point, he's talking to one of the statues outside, asking it what it's seen. What does it know? What can it tell him?
Not much. There's not a lot going on. But I feel like that's about the same amount of input. This wasn't wasted time, I don't think, from Tom's perspective, because I feel like he would come to the same conclusion or have the same level of new information and insight if you spoke to Sam or Ivar.
That's true. He doesn't have much to work with.
So honestly, you're not too far off, because then at least you're not sharing your ideas out with them, so nothing's getting mixed or, going out into the group that's kind of off base there. You're just keeping your secrets between you and the statues.
It is very funny that at this point, I think they've kind of pinpointed who everyone is. There are a number of people here who are, let's admit it, the stupid faithfuls. They're the MJs of this season. Where, if you want to talk about someone we hated on this show,
I did not like MJ last season, guys.
Tom and Sam are two people who I'm pretty sure everyone just assumes they're here, but they're not contributing much. And yet, Tom approaches Carolyn while they're waiting to start the challenge, and he asks her, hey, so remember a few nights ago at the round table how you and Danielle went at each other, and then we never heard anything else about it ever again? What's going on with that?
That was weird.
He's the only person who has asked about it.
No, because everybody's cycling back to theories, because this is what happens when you banish a traitor. Then everybody goes back to what was the last theory that I was just exploring that we were talking about as a group, and what do they cling to? What do they get stuck on?
He is so close. This is the right path to go down. Why did they randomly go after each other? That was weird, and now nobody's said a word about it since then.
But instead, what takes the leading prevalence as part of the conversation here and where it's looking for the day is it sounds like we're back to the coffin theory. And Sam seems to be the biggest proponent of this. Sam and Ivar, I would argue.
Not putting a traitor in the coffin was the smartest move that they've done this season, because it's been talked about this is episode 8. When did they do that? Episode 2 or 3? We've been talking about it for weeks.
Well, weeks for us, it's days for the participants.
They will not let go of it.
They can't get over the coffin theory.
Wasn't that Rob who said we're not putting a traitor in here?
I believe that was a Rob move.
Because Danielle was trying to put everyone in.
Yeah.
At some point.
Would have been quite the play for Danielle.
And I think Bob the drag queen too, right?
I think they wanted to put one person in who was.
which would have been
That would have
a
been
fatal
bad.
error.
Yeah, don't do that.
That's unfortunate for Sierra because she's the only of the three who are still left standing in this game. And she's kind of coming off of a bad week because she just played the challenge with Boston Rob. She refused to vote for Rob at the round table. She vocally defended him. And now we're talking about who was left in the coffin. That's not looking very good.
Yeah, it's stacking up. The odds are stacking up against you. And it's sounding like there's already numbers for Sierra because we're talking Sam, Brittany, Ivar. They're already convinced on Sierra. So this is going to be an uphill battle for her.
Sierra's not done playing the game, though. She's pretty sure there's something fishy going on here. And Danielle and Brittany, they're involved. Are they both traitors? Because they seem pretty buddy-buddy lately, and this whole gamer alliance is making her very uncomfortable.
I did like that Gabby was attuned to that as well. She was picking up on that connection that was happening between Brittany and Danielle as well. There's a bit of a closeness that she can sense.
So that's the state that we're in as we go into the challenge. There are a few names that have been thrown out there at this point. Now, this game requires them to be split into two teams. One team is going to stay at the castle, and that means they're not eligible for shields. The team that goes out with Alan and goes to play at the creepy house, they're all eligible to win a shield. And of course, there's money. There's $20,000 that can be won. So we have to resort to Dylan's favorite game, rock, paper, scissors.
Of course.
To figure out how the teams are going to be split up. I was taken aback. I shouldn't have been at this point by what Danielle said about her strategy of what team to be on.
She wants to be on the opposite team from Carolyn.
Not because that means they have a better chance of knowing what's going on within both groups. It's because she wants Carolyn to be at a disadvantage because she won't have the information about who won the shield.
And I think Danielle wanted to be in the group that goes to the creepy dollhouse because she needed to win a shield. She needed to help her friend Brittany win a shield. Obviously, she wants to protect Brittany at all costs.
Which I'm sure is blatantly obvious to Carolyn.
Very obvious, yes.
And what happened to her playing the game together now?
Well, and I think at first when they were deciding who was going to go and who was going to stay, they were trying to determine who has had a shield, who has had opportunities for shields in the past few challenges. And that was how they were going to determine it first. So I don't know if Dylan sat out because we know if he had done the rock, paper, scissors, he definitely would have been in the shield group if he had won.
I mean, maybe it wasn't his lucky day. He's not good at it. It's not as good as he thinks he is.
It wasn't a 100-person tournament. I think he was set for a tournament build and he was prepared for that sort of approach to the game. He wasn't ready for just a casual encounter here to determine who was going to go.
Wow. Well, dicks on the table, casual encounters, people talking people through things.
Less casual than that.
All right. Well, they get the groups figured out. And Sam, Dolores, Dylan, Gabby, and Carolyn have to stay behind in the castle. That's almost everybody who was almost murdered last night.
Pretty much, yeah. And then the team...
That seems unfair to me.
Well, I mean, I guess, yeah, except for Sam. Sam wasn't up for murder, but...
I'm saying that's the only exception. Every other person almost got murdered face-to-face last night.
It's true, yeah.
The other group is Tom, Brittany, Danielle, Ivar, and Sierra. And they travel out to the creepy little house in the woods that always means bad things are inside of it.
Yeah, it was full of bugs last episode, and it was not a good time. Well, was that the shack? Is that different from this house? Is this a different...
I thought it was the same one.
Creepy cottage house?
I don't know. Don't take me to the woods in the middle of Scotland. This one's not so bad, though. It's filled with creepy dolls, but I would take the dolls over some of the other things we've seen.
Yeah, I think this one was a little bit less intensive than last week as far as the mental challenge that goes on here. But
Robin Brown's dollhouse, that's what we're in.
Yeah. But this is an interesting challenge because I think there's like 4 different components to it because you have the dolls that you're searching through, and then some of them have recorded messages that play on them that sound like songs being sung backwards.
Some of them are just taunting them.
Some of them are just insulting them. Some of them are
threatening their lives,
spewing liquids into their face when they press the button on there. So there's kind of a mixed bag of results here. Some of them are telling them where the shield is hidden. So that's the other part here is obviously there's a shield in play, but of the 5 people who are going and looking through the dolls, there's only one shield that's available out of the entire group. So the other component here is that they need to find the dolls that are singing a lullaby? It's not a lullaby, like a...
Yeah, they're childhood songs and lullabies.
A limerick. And it's playing backwards, and they have to then pick up a phone and relay that sound to the people in the house, in the castle.
Using their own vocalization.
Using their vocalization, yes. They're going to relay it. And then the people at the house have to then take that information, go over to the phonograph and record what they heard, and then play it back in reverse. So this sounds incredibly complicated because it fucking is. This is so over the top for a mission.
This was like the challenge where they had to identify the bird sounds and match them to the birds. Do you remember that?
I think that they had to impersonate the bird, so that was a component. But I feel like the recording and then playing it backwards in reverse is way over the top.
They've built on that challenge to make it even more complicated.
Because the other one that this reminded me of was when they went to the bell tower and then they had to play the song and everybody stood outside the castle. There was like the castle team that was listening to the bells that would chime, and then they would have to find the matching song for that, or an item in the house that had that song name on it.
It's just going to turn into a game of telephone where...
It's literally a game of telephone.
First they got it from the doll, then the person that's out with Alan has to say it into the phone, and then whoever's in the castle has to hear it, mimic that into the recording device, and then play it backwards.
And then figure out what song it is, then go back to the phone and tell the person who sang it to them it's this song, and then that person places the doll in front of Alan, says the name of the doll and the song that it correlates to, and then you get $5,000, I think, per doll for that. It's a lot of work, is what I'm getting at.
The only person who is actually trying is Tom.
Tom Sandoval is the resident musician of the castle, and
I'm not so sure what this challenge said about him.
He's going to work. He's clocking in today.
He got so into this challenge that I think he forgot about the shield.
He did. His main goal.
He hyper-focused on the doll songs.
That is exactly what happened. As soon as music became a component to this challenge, shield bets were off, and he was just honed in, dialed in, zeroed in on this.
He is outside, like plugging his one ear because it's loud. There's chaos going on inside the cabin. There are just dolls being thrown against walls. They're on the floor. They're throwing up. All kinds of loud things. So he's trying to harmonize with the doll before he gets over to the phone.
Well, the problem here, too, is I feel like there was a lot of focus and emphasis on the notes. So Tom was just trying to focus on the melody and getting that down, while the people back at the castle, when they were listening to him, they were trying to decipher words. And it's like, you're not going to get words from this because I'm listening to it backwards. So I don't know what those sounds are. You just need to listen to the notes. Try to find it from name that tune, not the words. We're not going to get anything from the words.
At one point, the word nips gets thrown out there. So we're not, it's repeated by everyone. They're absolutely sure that that is the word that Tom needs to finish the song with. So
so we are being subjected to the musical woes of Tom Sandoval and company. How are they getting these right, though? There's a few when he is reciting them through the phone, and then they're going and recording them, and then they're saying, oh, wow, I think it's this. And they're right. They're not wrong. How? These are literal miracles that are happening.
I thought the first one was very obviously row, row, row your boat, but they got harder.
I heard it. Yeah, there was a few that you could tell from it playing backwards. I would have just set it down and guessed a song off of that before even going through that whole process. I don't know if that would have counted, but I would have been trying to skip some steps on anything that I could have. And I feel like there were a few of these, though, where I was like, I don't know where that came from or what collective consciousness was tapped into. I did not hear that song. I did not. That's not the song that I was hearing when it was playing back.
Maybe the phonograph just sounds different in person.
Maybe, yeah. It didn't broadcast well.
Tom is frantic. He's running around. He's grabbing dolls. He's singing songs. He's leaving Ivar the phone because I don't know why he didn't just hang up. He's like under the impression that they need to stay on the line. Like this is 911. I don't know. It's like, Ivar, hold on, hold the phone. And Alan's like, what are you doing, Ivar? Why are you taking instructions from Tom? Hang the fucking phone up and go play.
I don't know why I'm doing this, actually.
Did anyone else contribute anything who was out there in the cabin?
Okay, I think that's what bothers me, is that everybody was shitting on Tom Sandoval, and then Tom was the only one who was singing into the phone, from what I could see.
No one even attempted it aside from him, from what we saw. Okay, also at this point, I'm convinced that when they're in the turret, if Danielle and Carolyn ever get near murdering Tom, the producers are like, no.
Don't you dare.
This is going to win us an Emmy.
Absolutely
So
not.
you are not going to get rid of him. This is unbelievable comedic relief. He doesn't understand. He's like doing Lucille Ball level work here.
Well, while Tom is hard at work for the Vegemin phone calls that are taking place over there, Sierra is happening upon a little teddy bear friend. And we did hear a clue inside the house. One of the dolls said that the shield is in her bear friend. And so Sierra happens to look down right outside of the shack here. There's a bear and there's a shield. So she scoops it up and puts it in her pocket, of course.
In front of everyone.
Yeah, maybe.
It was not very sly.
Maybe a little more discreet.
Everyone is standing on the porch, though, because they're doing absolutely nothing while Tom does the whole challenge for them. They were all standing right by the bear. It could have been anyone's.
They missed out. Yeah, that's on them. They weren't looking around. I don't know why they weren't. For it being such a focus for so many people who were wanting to go out to get the shield, not a lot of people were looking for the shield, even though they did waste a good 20 minutes looking for the shield inside and nobody found it. So then they were realizing, oh no, we're not going to get any money. We should probably start doing the challenge.
Well, Tom should start doing the challenge.
Yeah, maybe let's find...
And we'll just stand here and contribute absolutely nothing and not help ourselves. So you know what? You guys don't deserve to go out next time if we get split into teams.
Yeah, let's find dolls to sing to Tom Sandoval so he can sing them into the phone.
They're not even bringing the dolls to him. At the very least, just have him hold the phone and just hand him one doll after the next.
I don't know if he wasn't allowed to bring the dolls over to the phone. I think that was a stipulation, was that they needed to stay
back behind a certain line.
Yeah, there was a police line, do not cross.
In the end, they manage in 30 minutes to answer all of the questions. They get 5 dolls correct. No, 4 dolls. They won $20,000.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
It was $5,000 a piece. So they got 4 songs correct. They banked all the money that was possible. Someone found the shield.
Sierra.
This was a success, and they're high-fiving each other to congratulate themselves on a job well done, except not Tom.
Yeah, Tom gets left hanging on that high five in the front there.
Despite doing everything to get them to win, nobody high-fives him at the end.
I feel like that was the moment where you'd have to realize, I'm doing so much. Like, I contributed so much in this, but then everyone just continues to belittle.
I hope that his thought process was not, if I help them win the money and win the challenge, that I will win favor with them, because it didn't work.
Clearly not. Yeah, that's not the way to do it.
Also, if you were Tom at this point, like, what's going through your mind? Because people don't like you, pretty much no matter what you do. So are you just here to blow things up? Because you're probably not going to get to the end. No one's going to choose to go to the end with you.
I mean, you'd have to think that. And I mean, the investigative side of him and the questions that he was positing to Carolyn earlier, I feel like that's only going to add to the suspicion around him now. The traitors are onto him. They know that he's up to no good sometimes, that Tom Riddle guy. So now the dollhouse team are heading back to the castle. A shield has been won that was not revealed to the castle crew, but Sierra has the shield. for the time being here. And now it's the suspicions that are starting to rise about the round table. We know the round table's coming up next. Sierra's thinking Brittany. A lot of people are thinking Sierra is what it's looking like.
Brittany felt like it was a good name to latch onto because Sierra is kind of torn between Danielle and Brittany. But Brittany had to face off against Boston Rob last night. So do you pick back up on the most recent name that got thrown out at the round table, or do you go for someone completely new?
Well, and this was what Carolyn was even seeing this as an opportunity. Maybe if I push for Brittany, then that gets Danielle by association too. So that's kind of an opportunity for Carolyn. Maybe. But then Sierra's running into the whole issue here where you walk into a room and you know that everybody's just been talking about you.
Yeah, it's not looking good for Sierra between the coffin theory and the fact that nothing really stuck against Brittany last night.
And Sierra was very buddied up with Rob after yesterday, where she was the only person who voted for Brittany aside from Rob, and Rob was voted out as a traitor. So that's not looking good either.
I'm starting to question Dylan a bit more. Like, how good is he at this game? Because we've all been wondering, was he just riding Rob's coattails to stay safe as a faithful? Did he have a master plan to eventually go to the end with Rob, knowing he was a traitor, and then he would turn on him and the faithfuls would win?
I don't feel like that's the play.
I'm starting to doubt it.
I feel like we've been giving everyone on this show way too much credit of, oh, they must know this by now. And I don't think they know that.
Yeah. When he said he can't let Derek's words go, and the two names that Derek named were Rob and Brittany, so he's still thinking maybe Brittany could be a traitor, I realized that I don't think Dylan has been playing this game himself, or he's not confident enough in what his own opinion is to let some of the things that he's heard go.
So we get to the round table. It's looking like it's probably going to be a Sierra and Brittany face off. Maybe Danielle in the mix too. Maybe, if we're lucky, hopefully. So first things first, we're back on coffin theory. Sierra has to get out in front of this.
Oh, she knows. She's got to speak up first because her name's been spread around the castle all day and nobody will stop talking about the coffin.
So there have been additional theories that have reinforced this just because there is overlap on the theories. So the coffin theory was there had to have been a traitor in the coffins as a decoy, but we already had one person murdered, one person banished who was faithful, and so that leaves us with Sierra. Maybe she was the traitor, or if she's faithful, then that's just all been a big distraction here. The other theory that is floating around now is that there are lady traitors.
The men have gotten together and put their big brains together, and they have decided that they are faithfuls. They're pretty sure of it. So that means now that there's an uneven number of the ratio of females to males in the house, they're thinking it's got to be women who were the traitors, which they're not wrong, but it's still kind of annoying.
Tom Sandoval is the first one to offer up some evidence on the lady traitors theory.
Girls make better cheaters. That's just a known fact. We've seen it on this show before, and everyone's like, sir,
I meant
cheaters.
traitors. I meant traitors. Traitors. It was a Freudian slip, okay?
His unconscious mind is he can't help it. The biggest cheater himself on reality TV is calling other people out.
Okay, the real crime here is that Chriselle wasn't here for that.
Yeah.
That's the real bummer, and I think that was the most disappointing part of the season for me.
Also, Tom, this is why you can't make friends. You're just doing it to yourself. Gabby's like, that's it. We're all writing down Tom's name.
And at one point, Sam was like, dude, just stop talking. Just don't talk no more. Just do what I do. Just fade into the bushes.
When Sam is giving you advice that you look like an asshole,
maybe just button it up. Maybe maybe keep that down. Keep that to yourself.
It's pretty bad. Just don't say anything else tonight, okay? It's becoming a face-off between Sierra and Brittany because Sierra's trying to defend herself. She's tried to dispel the coffin theory. Brittany's pointing out that it was pretty odd, Sierra, that only you and Rob voted for me last night at the round table. So you voted with a traitor.
It doesn't look good. Yeah, it doesn't look good. And I mean, Sierra, maybe she did the rookie mistake too, because then remember Wes's advice to Dylan when he was saying, hey, if you have an accusation, go in on it wholeheartedly. And Sierra kind of wavers, where she does spread her blame across Brittany and Danielle. I think if she just went all the way in on Brittany or Danielle, she would have had a better chance, but she kind of started a war on two fronts, so to speak.
I'm not really understanding why no one has come for Danielle harder at the table. Is it because they all agree that they think she's suspicious, but they'll just keep her to the end? Because I can't handle watching the round tables anymore, because now that there's less people, it's becoming more obvious what Danielle is doing throughout the round table. She will not stop shaking her leg. Her entire body is being thrown about in the chair because she is nervously tapping her foot.
And people have noticed. I mean, they're aware of it.
Between that and the crying and that challenge with the riddles.
Yeah, the shield where she was shielding Derek, removing Derek, shielding Derek, removing herself and shielding Derek.
Which we've since heard there was more that occurred that we did not see. They cut it down a bit.
Yeah, Rob was talking about it when he left, where he was saying that she kept answering them right, and then every single decision that she made to put somebody in the shield spot was worse than the last one. So they only kept two of the bad ones, but trust me, they were all really bad.
It just has to be so obvious to everybody at this point. But what if Brittany is a quiet traitor? That's a good theory.
See, I like the train of thought, and I like the reasoning that's behind it, where you had Bob the Drag Queen, and Boston Rob as your gamer, outspoken, loud, brash players who were at the forefront of everything. So maybe there was a third traitor who was lying low, flying under the radar. That seems like it could be Brittany. She has been kind of awkwardly quiet. Ivar had suspicions then when he was trying to reason that too, that, oh, Sierra, I could see that Bob and Rob would be able to convince you to get into a coffin. And Sierra's response, I feel like that would have convinced me. There's no way that Bob the Drag Queen and Boston Rob would have convinced Sierra to jump into the coffin as a distraction if she didn't want to do that. It doesn't seem like she wanted to do that.
No, it seems to me like Sierra is able to hold her own.
Yeah.
And I don't think that in a turret fight with the two of them that they would be able to convince her to do something that she didn't think was a good idea for herself.
So I feel like that would have been my turning point where I would have had doubts.
Me too.
About this theory now, because the reasoning that's being brought, it is being disproven in some ways. So that was what they were pointing to as their evidence, and it's being disputed. I feel like I would be leaning with Sierra. I feel like Dylan isn't convinced of Sierra either. But then it's one of those votes where he kind of already knows it doesn't really matter what he's going to vote on. Because when it is time to write down a name, a lot of people are going to be writing down Sierra.
Yeah, I think he's also in a precarious spot still after coming off of being very closely aligned to Boston Rob, that he's really lucky that nobody's looking his direction. So do you just vote with the group so that the group feels like you're faithful to them and you're loyal and you're not a loose cannon who's just going to look in a different direction? That's probably what's going through his mind.
Because he probably would have voted for Gabby again. Even though
he's very convinced about
there's
Gabby.
No information, there's no other reason for that. I feel like that was confirming his suspicions of Gabby. A lot of the reasoning that was being placed on Sierra at this roundtable, I feel like that's all stuff that he's backing into his theories on Gabby instead.
Danielle does have to defend herself a little bit here because Sierra points out of the three people who were in the coffin, so it was Jeremy, Nikki, and Sierra, Jeremy said Danielle's name. And then he was gone. He was the one who was murdered that night in the coffin. That seems a little odd, guys.
Do not forget that. Yeah, this feels important for some reason.
Danielle is able to get herself out of it by pointing out that she voted for Rob twice. So, I mean, I voted for a traitor 2 times. How could I be a traitor? Even though we started the season with the traitors turning against each other publicly at the round table.
I don't know how that was an acceptable defense because I would be arguing, okay, Rob joined late, clearly. He joined the game late. So the traitor group that was already established was disrupted. Let's think through that a little bit more because I don't think that the traitors were going to be all in agreement with each other.
The other point that she makes is that all of her friends have been murdered or banished. They've been going one by one. If she was a traitor, why would she be murdering her own friends? But the answer is they said Boston Rob's name. Isn't that how we got on Rob? That everybody who came for Rob got eliminated by the traitors?
Nobody's remembering any of this stuff. Yeah, to provide the context and the reasoning.
Furthermore, to make my point, Ivar, where you're talking about someone's personality not being strong enough to stand up to Rob and Bob the drag queen, Danielle's defense is all my friends got murdered. Did you just not have the ability to stand up to Rob and say, no, we're not doing that?
That sounds like, yeah, that aligns with, if you could mirror all of everybody's concerns that they have about you in the coffin theory as Sierra, and you can shift that over to reasons to vote for Danielle instead, I feel like that might have been her better play. She started in on Brittany and was more on Brittany, and then it didn't really land because it was the same thing as the night before against Rob. Nothing really stuck. And I feel like if they had that conversation or hit that point in the conversation a little bit earlier in the roundtable, because it wasn't much longer after this where Alan had to wrap up the discussion and it was time to vote. So maybe she would have been able to direct a little bit more of that blame and shift over to Danielle instead of her. I still feel like Sierra was in kind of an impossible circumstance that she found herself in, where the coffin theory is so strong, and now it overlaps with Lady Traitor theory, and now it's just they need to get this out of their system, otherwise they're not going to be able to move forward.
Yeah, the worst thing that probably happened to her was getting paired with Boston Rob in that last challenge.
That is definitely what left people wondering a little bit too hard after that, because I feel like that was Rob's play to have Sierra around as a shield later in the game. Because if you have somebody who had some suspicion way early in the game and then they linger and kind of keep going on throughout the mid game, when you get to the end as a traitor, those are perfect faithfuls to bring back up to say, hey, remember when we had this theory, when we felt something was a little bit off about this person, and you can just fan the flames of some of that indecision and the insecurity that people had playing with this person the whole time.
He was definitely laying the groundwork for that, but there were no other theories that anyone in this group could come up with, so they reverted instantly back to the coffins. And so they vote, and it's unanimous.
Unanimous vote against Sierra. So that hurt in kind of a different way too. And I feel like Dylan was pained when he was voting, because he was talking about it afterwards as well, where he felt like he had to vote with the group, and everybody feels like while they're saying who they're voting for, oh, I hate to do this because I don't think you are one, then why are we voting like this? Shouldn't it be up to us? Isn't it our decision of whose name we're writing down? Then why are we voting for people that we don't think are traitors?
That's part of the problem when you're the vocal person in the group. Not him. I'm saying other people who throw out Sierra's name or whoever the faithful is that you get eliminated, is that's how you usually get in trouble the next week, because then people go, oh, you led us astray. And I feel really bad about how the vote went. I don't know if that'll happen next week, but
people are probably going to forget that Sam and Ivar were so vocal about it. They forget that they show up every morning to breakfast. They have nothing else to contribute. They just keep fading into the background here. But I think my biggest regret for Sierra in this episode was when she got up after she was banished and she went to the zone of truth where she had to tell them if she was a faithful or if she was a traitor. I would have told them right out the gate, I got the shield and you banished me. I'm faithful. Goodbye.
That would have been putting your dick on the table.
Okay. Well,
yeah,
that's what I'm here for, I guess.
Because you know who was in her group? Tom, fuck you. Women are cheaters. Ivar, who came for you at the table. And Danielle and Brittany, who you think are both traitors. So let them all be in a place where they could get murdered.
Yeah, leave them.
Why keep them safe by no one knowing who has the shield?
Don't protect. I would have quoted Alan's words back to them from the first episode when he said every decision that you make in this castle has a consequence. And so I would have said, so many of you said that you were voting for someone who you did not believe was a traitor. So here's your punishment. I have the shield. None of you are safe. Goodbye.
Vindictive, like Wes.
Yeah. But Wes was coming from a place where there was no power in it. There was no authority in his threat. There was nothing he could do. He was at the mercy of the table and decided to spit in their faces, and he felt the wrath. So this would be one of those things where it's like, you do have something that is very valuable right now. You're protecting half of the faithfuls, or the group of remaining people in the game at least, and you could totally blow that up. And I feel like she should have. So I wish she would have done that. I really, really wish she would have done that.
They're all shocked that she's a faithful. And the first thing that Tom starts thinking about is that shield, because they didn't tell everyone afterwards who had the shield. So maybe we need to get together. We need to have a little group meeting. Let's just not tell anybody that that was Sierra's shield.
Well, yeah, and Carolyn is trying to figure out, because Carolyn was in the castle crew, not to be confused with the Cage Boys. She is in the castle crew, and she's trying to figure out who got the shield. And Tom is not cracking. Carolyn is peering into his eyes and trying to get a read on his soul, basically trying to tell as she's questioning him. And he's not giving up the information here.
There's also a meeting of the...
Do you want to call it minds?
No.
Meeting of
the He-Man Women Haters Club. That's what it is. All the guys who, except for Tom, they don't care about Tom.
Tom.
He said some fucked up shit at the table. We're not interested in him anymore.
We're trying to create some space between us and Tom right now. We don't really want to be associated with Tom.
So Dylan, Sam, and Ivar, they decide to meet in the least suspicious place of the whole castle, the cellar.
The wine cellar that's right behind the secret bookcase next to the bar.
And they're in there having a meeting. I don't remember what they were even talking about. Was it important?
Can't call it a meeting of the minds. I don't know what we would call this then. Meeting of the mids. Maybe that's it.
They are the most mid people.
They are very mid faithfuls.
The most important part of this is that Carolyn and Danielle don't check the room well enough before they decide to have a little rendezvous together and talk about what they're going to do before they get to the turret.
Okay, to be fair, they were meeting up in front of the bar. I don't know if I would have checked the bookcase either.
I would check it all the time.
You would check it every time when you go to sit down?
I'm paranoid.
Not every time.
People can hear things from in there.
Yes, I know. They've experienced it firsthand.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Then first of all, why didn't you go to the secret cellar room?
Because that's suspicious. Only traitors meet in the secret bookshelf.
I mean, and it was occupied, so.
Yeah, but maybe just a little knock or something. See if you hear something.
Yeah, see if anybody responds. They're talking loudly, too.
I mean, they're talking pretty loud. And then what happens is the guys in the bookcase hear Carolyn and Danielle laughing, and they think someone's trying to come in to the bookcase. So Dylan comes out to investigate, and he happens upon Carolyn and Danielle on the couch, who look like the cats that just ate the canary.
Why did he come out? Just peek and see who's there.
I would have slowly opened the door.
I would have crawled on the floor behind the couch.
Slowly open the door.
No idea the things I would do.
Slowly open the door and just listen for a minute. Give it a listen. See if you hear anything interesting. You heard people laughing out there. So what's going on out there? See, this is where they did need Tom Sandoval. Tom Sandoval can walk into a hallway right in front of people, right behind people, and they don't even know that he's there.
He does. He has the gift of invisibility.
He has the cloak of invisibility, and that was a gift.
Danielle and Carolyn turned it right around on him, though. Like, that's suspicious that you're meeting in the wine cellar. Why would you be meeting in there? That's weird.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
we think you're the traitor, Danielle, so I don't know. Yeah, how do you want to defend that? I don't want to talk about it right now.
Not really what you want fresh in someone's mind as they head to the turret.
Yeah, not great, especially when Dylan was basically down to the wire between him and Chriselle for murder last night. So now going into the turret, it's getting scary. But there is a curveball here for the traitors between Danielle and Carolyn. They have the opportunity not only to murder, they can choose to recruit a faithful to join them as a traitor. instead of murdering tonight, which that's always an interesting dynamic, especially when they have the opportunity to choose.
This made me have a lot of feelings. I had to think through it a bit, and I think I've figured out where I stand on it all. But first, Danielle, I guess, is still trying to garner some kind of trust with Carolyn in the turret. So she tells her, Sierra had the shield, so we're good to murder anybody tonight.
And Carolyn, being intelligent enough to know what's going on with Danielle, does not trust her, not one bit, as I would not trust her either. Because also Carolyn's heard some mixed rumors from Tom.
Sandoval has been busy spreading the word that they didn't tell who had the shield.
Yeah. So
someone
now
has it still.
He's really doubting it, which I don't understand why that was Danielle's play. Danielle's whole thing was she wanted to be in that group who goes to get the shield. 1, to try to protect Brittany by getting her a shield because Brittany is her friend. 2, she wanted to know who has the shield so she could keep that information from Carolyn. And now she walks into the turret and that's the first thing that she throws out there. What are you doing?
I can't understand what kind of game she's been playing this entire time.
I can't get a read on her. And I feel like this is a double bluff. She knows that she's bad at lying, so she has to tell her the truth and just use Carolyn's own mistrust against Danielle as her downfall. That's the attempt here. So I wouldn't trust her either. I don't even know if I would go for anybody in that group.
No, and it's not looking good because Carolyn's not believing the information that Danielle has given her. Are they even going to be able to agree on who they're going to murder? And then they find out, sweet relief. We don't have to get rid of anybody tonight. We can recruit somebody. And that is sounding like a really good option to Danielle. We should probably do that, right?
Danielle jumps on board immediately with recruiting. Carolyn is saying, no, I think we should murder someone. So they're already on opposite sides of the fence here because murder is the play. Recruiting is kind of dangerous because that person could say no, and then you've wasted your opportunity. You haven't murdered anyone, and you didn't recruit anyone. You've gained nothing.
And it's probably someone that you trust to a certain extent if you're going to recruit them as a traitor.
But here's the problem. Don't recruit friends. You cannot recruit friends. You need faithfuls who are friends when you are a traitor at the end of the game. You can't have all of your friends be traitors at the end of the game because you will get caught.
Okay, they have, again, flawed logic, in my opinion, about if they do recruit someone. Let's just entertain it. What are you thinking? And Danielle, right away, it's got to be a girl because they think that a woman has to be a traitor. So forget the guys.
Terrible call. I think that's a bad idea.
Me too. I would have said, we got to recruit a guy. And then we're going to freaking make sure he gets thrown under the bus. And then they're going to all be like, damn, we don't know anything about this game.
Yes, throw him under the bus. And something that would be, you have to get a guy. You have to have a guy who you can just, it's a sacrifice. Because then this is going to be, well, that theory was out too. We thought it was a lady traitor and it was another guy. So did we get them all now? That's 3 people. Oh, well, maybe there's another one. So there's still doubt in the game, but I feel like that would suppress a lot of things, or you can explain away some other things that are getting a little bit too close to you.
Now, if you're gonna recruit a woman, you would think that it would be someone who you're okay with going before you get to the end.
Dolores, sacrificial lamb, that is your original scapegoat of it was a housewife all along. I can't even believe it. You need to go back to these other theories. So then that way people feel the relief of, oh my gosh, yes, that was the right thing all along. We did think it was a housewife and it was. That came to fruition.
Instead, Danielle suggests Brittany.
I can't explain how dumb this is. This is such a bad play on so many different levels, though.
Well, first of all, she is your faithful who is potentially going to take you to the end. Why would you recruit her as a traitor? You're obviously not going to put her in a position of being a sacrificial lamb to get rid of. So Carolyn has to be thinking, oh, that'll be it for me. They'll turn on me at the round table, get rid of me, and they'll go to the end together.
Yes. You will be the sacrificial lamb. So don't let that happen. Carolyn can't let that happen. If you go the murder route, honestly, that feels like Danielle wouldn't be able to get to the final then if you murder somebody tonight. And so I get why Danielle wants to recruit someone. That's the only intelligent part of this play that she has. She knows that murder would mean more suspicion on her. People aren't going to let that go. And you're not going to be able to pin this on anybody else because she knows she can't pin it on Carolyn. So people are going to come looking for who they're suspicious of. And Danielle's name is going to be first or second spot on a lot of people's lists.
Also, if you're thinking about getting to the end, and let's just pretend that Danielle and Carolyn have an equal chance of getting to the end together, why would you now split the pot between 3 people? If you manage to get all 3 of the traitors this far to the end of the game, why would you want to split the prize 3 ways instead of 2 ways?
Because Danielle knows she's in trouble. She's on her last leg here. So, I mean, I get why she's looking for it, but the reasoning of how she's getting to these decisions of, oh, I need another friend in the turret. No, you don't. You need a scapegoat. That's what you need. You need somebody to throw under the bus and move on.
I mean, the writing should be on the wall at this point that probably when they get to the round table tomorrow, that the problem is going to be Brittany, because everybody's going to turn and look at, well, what was the alternative theory that we didn't entertain? I don't know if they'll actually look that seriously at Danielle. They might. It might be Danielle and Brittany. But how is recruiting Brittany going to help you at all?
Brittany is dangerous. There is suspicion on her. Her name has come up at the last 2 roundtables. Danielle is closely associated with Brittany. Danielle has suspicion. So now you're concentrating suspicion to 2 people. That's never good because then those are going to be the people who come up at the roundtable. So you don't want 2 of the traitors to be in the conversation and the discussion for roundtable banishment the next day. No. We got to get further away from this. We need some distance between that. And I feel like Carolyn even entertaining and saying that she would recruit Gabby, like she would rather have Gabby in the turret. Again, no friends in the turret. If you want to recruit someone, they need to be collateral damage. They need to be a pawn.
This far in the game.
You need to recruit Ivar. You need to recruit Sam. Those are the people that you need to recruit.
Dolores. I liked the Dolores idea.
Dolores because then that harkens back to an original theory of it must be a housewife and all the housewives were getting picked off. So I feel like that goes back to something and kind of settles it down in a way of we were right all along. So then people kind of trust their gut. So I feel like it depends on what do you want the motivation to be? Do you want people to feel relieved that they got that person out and then they're comfortable with where they stand with their personal relationships with everyone else? Or do you want to undermine, flip it, and do like a total mind fuck sort of pick where it's, oh my God, I had no idea it was this person?
I would go with recruit a guy because also if you're able to get that guy voted out, like Tom is not going to be able to act like himself if he's recruited as a traitor. It's going to be very obvious. He'll be gone very quickly. I don't know how Ivar or Sam or Dylan would do either. But they've made it a them versus us mentality now about the guys versus the girls.
Yep.
So why not lean into that? Because then anything that any guy says at this table moving forward, if you're able to have them believe another traitor was a guy by recruiting him and getting him voted out, no one's going to listen to them anymore.
It's dangerous to recruit Dylan, Ivar, Sam, because they are the voting block of men now, because that was what the secret society that was happening in the library.
Yeah. Tom's on the outskirts.
Yeah. Tom's on the outside. So that would be the reasoning behind it, to try to pick someone from that group, because then they can try to steer away from those theories or explain it away. I feel like it's not too difficult to navigate how to manipulate Ivar and Sam in a train of thought. I feel like that could easily be done.
Yeah.
So I feel like Dylan would be a good recruit, because at first it was like, maybe you don't want to be in part of that. No, you need to be part of that, because those are the people that are going to organize. It's a vote against, it's the guys against the girls is what it comes down to. And you need to break that shit up. You need to have somebody on your side who will not be leaning into that sort of stuff.
Well, we will need to wait until next week to find out what it is they decided to do. And we probably just wasted a lot of time and energy theorizing what they should or could do because they will most likely do the dumbest thing.
They're going to recruit Gabby next week, watch, and I'm going to cry.
I mean, good for Gabby. I think she'll be fun.
Good for Gabby, but bad because Dylan's already gunning for Gabby too. So she already has sus that somebody can't let go of too.
I just really want to see Danielle voted out. I like Carolyn, but at the same time, I don't know that she's really been able to take control of this game, even after we've gotten rid of the stronger personalities in the turret. I kind of just don't care to see either of them win. I'm going to start rooting for Faithfuls.
No, I want Carolyn. I want Carolyn to win.
All right.
I do. I don't want Danielle to win at all. So I want Danielle to get thrown under the bus in some capacity. So whether it's I feel like a murder would steer more suspicion towards Danielle. And then depending on the recruitment, if they go that route, because then the whole other curveball is if the person says no, because it's not one of the ultimatum recruitments. This would be a note that's left, and then they choose. The faithful chooses if they're going to say yes or no. So if they say no, then they have nothing.
Yeah.
I'm going to be thinking about this all week.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
We're going to be talking about this more.
I'm not going to be able to stop theorizing on this.
Well, if you like what you're hearing here and you want to hear more of our theories and ponderings about reality TV, you can do that over on our other free podcast, Surviving Sister Wives, where we talk about the hit show on TLC going on for 19 seasons now, Sister Wives, about the Brown family. And we have a Patreon where we release bonus content. We just released a Let's Talk About It episode covering the 3-part docuseries, An Update on Our Family.
Which confused a lot of people because they thought that we were announcing an update on our family in the Patreon, but that's just the name of the show, guys. We don't have any updates on our family.
Also, one of the benefits of being over on our Patreon is that you get to be in our private Patreon Discord. And we just watched Twilight together last night.
That was quite a watch party. I wasn't really prepared for that, but I feel like that was what we're going for. That's the community that we're trying to foster, I think.
We also have weekly watch parties where we watch episodes of Sister Wives, obviously, and we have been doing the Traitors Australia. We just started that last week, so we're going to be coming up on episode 2.
So those are on Monday nights every week, the Traitors Australia Season 1.
And that's over at patreon.com/survivingpod. We'll see you next week.